Hello, everybody. Live from New Jersey and Seattle. It's Jeff Lobb here. Office Hours with Jeff, another episode. I'm thrilled to be part of this one that I'm hosting. We have an awesome special guest for you guys. And if you've not met Vija Williams, she's here with us today. Vija is a top producing team. She's based out of Seattle. I know some of you guys are just starting to log in. So as always, I always like to give you a few seconds before I introduce her formally, and hopefully our Facebook live stream today holds up well. We've had some challenges before. So hopefully you guys log in. As you do log in, there's going to be some really good content here about teams. So if you have questions, push them up here. We hopefully will see them in the stream. And if we run into technical glitches, we will deal with them as they come. But in the meantime, let me welcome Vija Williams from the Vija Williams Group. It's the Vija Williams Group, correct, or team?
Vija Group. We just call ourselves the Vija Group.
It's the Vija Group.
Yeah.
So you're in Seattle. I don't know how the weather is there. East Coast is terrible today. Is it normal Seattle?
It is not. It is beautiful. It's going to be in the low 80s, and it's sunny and like blue skies right now in Seattle.
In Seattle. We got to flip it because it's usually not like that when I'm there.
I know.
So, thanks for joining us. It's a hot topic of a lot of places I travel. Just before we even get started, tell me more about your team as it sits like right now.
Sure. Yeah. So I was an individual agent for about, how long was it? I guess if I did the math, 13 years, and I was pretty successful. And then I started this team about 3.5 years ago. About 4.5 years ago, I would say I started my journey on thinking I wanted to form a team. The actual Vija Group started 3.5 years ago. And right now we have 8 agents and then 6 non-agents on the team. So what that looks like is me, and I am the founder and the owner. My husband works very closely. He runs our books. He does our finances. He does a lot for the team.
Awesome.
And then I've got a director of operations, Lindsay. I've got a transaction and listing coordinator, Megan. And then I have 2 ISAs right now. And then, like I said, 8 agents.
Well, that's obviously very impressive. And I'm sure you've been through some trials and tribulations getting to this. There's no such thing as the perfect world. And I know most of the people I talk to all the time either get stuck at a couple spots. They get stuck at, how do I start? They get stuck at, okay, I'm like 1 or 2 people in, now what? And, there's a million opinions from a million different people. So I always love to learn from people who are actually doing. Let me see. We've got some, there we go. Okay. So we got some questions coming in, and I'll be asking some of them as we go. I just want to make sure our live stream was working today.
Okay.
All right. So let's start off with this. You were a solo agent at one point, right?
For a long time. Yeah.
Right. And you start to learn, like, there's only so much time in a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just curious, before you went to a team, did you face any burnout phase?
Yeah, very much so. I that's a great question. And it's a question asked by someone who's done this. We all have an attention span that might last 7 years. Let's be honest. If a real estate agent has lasted 7 years without burnout, they're probably an outlier. Right. So I went through that first phase. I started in 2001.
Yeah.
It was really 2002 that I started, and then 2000, I'm trying to remember, 8, I actually left kind of resale real estate or regular real estate and went and worked for a builder firm, that just did new construction. And I was in the industry, but I just took a little bit of a break. And then when the downturn happened, I took some time off, actually had my 3rd baby and kind of worked part-time. So I went through this little break. So when I came back, which was in 2010, end of 2010, when I kind of came back, it was horrible. I mean, the market was horrible and bad. Yep. And so it took a while, right, to rebuild. And so I kind of worked hard for, I'm trying to think, it was like a year or 2. And then in answer to your question, I started realizing that I was letting incoming leads flounder. And I'm not proud to admit it. It's I'm on Facebook Live admitting that, probably people weren't getting back to like they should have. And it was just me working as hard as I could and scrambling. And at a certain point, I was getting exposed at the same time. I was getting exposed to teams because by then I had changed brokerages, and the brokerage I'm at now is very pro team and does a lot of training about it. So that was kind of happening at the same time. So I was like, oh, okay, this is what you do when you have an overabundance of leads. I just knew innately that the next step was to grow a team, right?
Right.
And I had a little red book that told me how. So, I mean, I was in an environment, I think it was a combination of my business was at a point where I needed it. And then I was in an environment where I could have responded a couple different ways. I could have started referring them off or ignoring them or kind of staying status quo. But because of the environment I was in, I decided to grow a team.
Yeah. So, I mean, the burnout phase happens. Unfortunately, the goal is to stay in the business and get through it because you're right. I've been through it, but not to make you feel so bad either is I remember losing FSBOs and leads on sticky notes and I'd find them behind my desk or between my car seats.
Right. Right.
When my shakeup was too, like, I got to figure this out because this doesn't work.
No.
So I think it's a great, experience you have to kind of go through and then realize, hey, I got to do something. So, all right. So once you said, all right, I got to do something, most people get stuck on where to start. Who do you hire first? It's like chicken and egg.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the question because let's be honest, what we all want to do is hire a buyer's agent first, right? Because it doesn't cost any salary and we can, we can just grow the sales end of it. That's our instincts. We're salespeople. If you're really successful at this and you grow because your business is booming, your first instinct, don't do that. Right. The hardest thing as a realtor is your first hire really needs to be admin. It really should be admin, and that costs money.
That's right.
So I remember saying, okay, I'm going to get, I was getting freaked out at the time. I'm trying to remember the going rate, I'll have to go back. It was probably about $40,000 a year. And I remember saying, oh my God, that's so scary. And I remember Gary Keller saying, he said, actually, if you divide, so let's call it 36 because it's easier math. If you divide 36,000 into 12, that's 3,000 a month. Right. In 90 days, if this person doesn't, triple your output, then, they're not a fit for you. So really you're only risking 9,000. And that's always stuck with me. Every hire I've ever made, to me, I can't focus on you have to look at the annual numbers, but the focus should be, okay, it's a 90-day risk. It's not a forever risk. And so I was like, all right, basically I'm doing this a month and I need to if I can do at least double, if I can, prove that I'm doing at least double or on my way to doing double in 90 days and then triple in 6 months, then it's a win. So that's how I made my initial decision, which it took me a little while to kind of figure out the assistant thing, if I'm being honest. Yeah.
No, this is what we're about here on the show.
Yeah, like 5 assistants in a year.
All right. So I heard 5 assistants in a year. So well, first of all, you have to first live with now you're responsible for someone's livelihood.
Oh, totally. I'm so glad you mentioned that, Jeff, because that is a real thing. You're like, someone's car payment and mortgage and family vacation is on you.
That's right.
You can decide if you want that mantle on your shoulders. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. It's huge. I mean, it's a weight, but you have to cross that. You got to bear it. And then I'm sure you faced the challenge of letting go of like, here are my passwords to things. Now, was this a trouble for you? I don't know. Here's the passwords of my logins to stuff.
No.
Like, you're okay with that?
Yeah, that didn't bother me.
Because they got to get into your, MLS and they got to get into your paperwork.
Am I weird that didn't bother? Other things bothered me. That didn't.
No, it's it's just a big concern of many. To me, it was that I just hated giving up that control. So wait. So help me understand. So your first hire wasn't good.
No, she's a sweet person, but I mean, none of them were good. Because I wasn't good yet. It starts with, I was just like, basically I'm slammed, I'm overwhelmed. I need to hire someone. Let me interview 3 people. You're hired. I like you. And then they start on day 1 and they're like, what do I do? And you're like, I don't know everything else.
No idea what that means.
Figure it out. I don't know. And that's not the way, by the way, to train anybody. There was no job description. I didn't know anything. So, so the first assistant, I think I probably failed just because I wasn't even ready to understand what that job was. And then I kind of started getting that together. And then I think it took me 1 or 2 assistants to kind of hire the right personality and the right behavioral profile to fit what I needed, which wasn't necessarily what all the textbooks say I needed. Everyone's different. And then there's that element of managing me. I mean, that's not easy. So, blah, 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 5 later. And then I got the 1. And that was a game changer when I got the 1.
Yep. I think it's important for us to self-realize that we need to hire somebody. And I put this post up there. It's because I wasn't good yet. We we have to sit down and identify what we really want them to do. Like we say the other stuff because it's our day. Like it's, what has to get done. But I mean, if you're hiring a person that's either new in the biz, was she actually in the real estate business, by the way, or was she just outside?
No, she wasn't. No, she was new.
All right. So they don't understand what the MLS is. They don't understand what the heck our jargon looks like. They don't even know what paperwork looks like. So how did you, all right. So you hired 1, 2, sounds like you went through 5. So when you got to the 5th one in a year, well, I almost wanted I want to go back a second because I still how was it firing the first one?
I don't even remember. It was hard. Oh, I remember. That was hard. Oh, that's the worst. Some of them left though. Most of them left, by the way.
Okay. So you just paying them out of the business, paying them out.
But you know what? That first one was really hard. And, she reached out to me. I'm really on good terms with most people ultimately who have left. Sometimes it's a little stingy at first, but it comes around.
Yeah. I mean, you're now managing. So, all right. So you got to the 5th one. What happened between all that said, hey, this one is right and it's actually working? What did you have to go through put in place for that to work?
Well, yeah. And it's interesting. It's actually a really timely question. I was just talking to someone about this yesterday because the person that gets you from A to B isn't necessarily the person that's going to get you from B to C. And I did something right then. And so this is what I would want people to hear. This is what I want you to hear. What I'm going to tell you was correct. And then I forgot about it. And 2.5 years into the relationship, I ceased to do this. And then that person went away. Now, as it happens, my director of operations I have now is exactly who I need now. But what I did right, and then what I did wrong, is I defined what it looked like to succeed in the role. Okay. So I had to really define what it was the business needed. Because at that point it was starting to look like a business. What did the business need? What do I need? We need a 33 touch to go to our database. We need really good transaction management. We need postcard marketing, right? I'm trying to think. We need a CRM. We need, at that point, we started Boomtown. So we need a lead generating nurture system, right? So all of those things, I defined what I needed. And then, I was very aware when the right candidate came. Does that make sense?
It does. And just by you saying that my mind starts to say, okay, we need a CRM. We need more. That's almost like that's a person to do all that. Like if you think about handling the volume you're doing, you're focused on being the rainmaker, to time to put CRMs together and campaigns together and all that automation together is a whole different person. So the responsibility, so you got your first assistant on board. They were probably tasked with a little bit of everything, I'd imagine, right? Yeah.
And she had experience too. And let me tell you guys something. I paid her double what the first assistant got.
Really?
And, this was 18 months into this. So it was probably 6 months into I really formed the Vija Group in December of 2013 is when we were formed. She was hired July of 2014. And she, that one hire, and I was so scared about paying that salary, but that one hire got us from, I think we did 36 million that year. And then last year we did 70 million. So we really doubled in about 2 years with that right person. And other things happened, but I would say that stable, the foundation of that hire, right, is what
that's right. So word for whoever's listening and struggling, and you got to get past this and get the right person in place. And there's a good question that popped up, and I'm going to take it down in a second, but do you find that hiring people in the business versus someone who doesn't know or training them, did you find it better either way? Which way did you find it?
Yeah, I love the question. So this is how I would answer that. It's about money and time. Okay. So if you can afford proven talent, that's great. I mean, ultimately 18 months in, 5 assistants later, I had to get to a point. So it was really 5 assistants in 18 months. I'm making myself sound a lot worse, but I had to get to a point where I was like, look, I just have to own the fact that I don't have the time to train emerging talent. What I need to look at is someone that has experience, and that's what I need right now. So it's time or money. If you're just getting started and you want to start with an assistant early, which I recommend if you can do it, and you have the time and the patience needed, then by all means get someone that's inexperienced who's also going to be a more affordable value.
Yeah, someone that can hit the ground running. upgrades.
I just, part of what was happening is that I just didn't have the capacity to ramp somebody up.
Yeah, I get it. And it's obviously we're trying to learn from years of your experience. It's not a long span, but it feels like it's taken such a long time, but it's really only 4 years, 3 years.
It feels so long. It's been
forever.
3.5 years and it feels like so long.
That's why I love speaking to you. So we got the assistant on board. You're doing volume, going to 70 million. Was buyer's agents next?
Exactly. So that's exactly what happened. So it was assistant first, and then my first hire of the Vija Group was a buyer's agent hire December of 2013.
Yep.
And what it's interesting. You haven't asked, but I'll share. That year of 2013, when I was failing forward and just kind of stumbling along and hiring, and people were coming and going every night. It was crazy. Yeah. Why did the Vija Group form December of 2013? Why do I define that? Well, it's because I finally took a step back and listen, this whole thing is about 5 steps. What is it? 5 steps back and 6 steps forward, whatever that whole thing is. But I defined my mission, vision, values, beliefs, and perspectives. And I defined what I was growing and what I wanted this to look like. And only then did the Vija Group start. That's my definition of when did the Vija Group start. And I did that December of 2013, hired my first buyer's agent, hired my second one July of that year, at the same time as that real first director of ops that I ever had.
Gotcha.
So by the end of 2014, I had 2 buyer's agents and an assistant.
Awesome. Now I got a good question. I'm going to pop up on the screen too. Friend of ours, Darren, online. What was the time frame where you actually doubled your business? What was the amount of people you had you went from this 35 to 70, or what was that?
Yeah, I can walk. Yeah, it's a great question. So 20, I got to get my years right. Okay. I went from 9.6 million it must have been, I did 9.6 million in 2012. I did 25 million in 2013. And I want to say something about that year. That was a year of feeling miserably. I must have hired and either just people came and went. That I think 3 or 4 of the assistants were happening during that period of time. A couple buyer's agents were kind of coming and going. Even with a failed, flawed Vija and a failed, flawed everything, I went from 9.6 million to 25 million. And that was the moment when I really sat down to write my MVVBP. I think most people wave the white flag. I think that's the point that we lose most people who are growing teams. And I think what happened to me is I go, you know what? As much of a epic failure as I am, and this is, I've 2.5 times my business in 12 months with some leverage in my life. That tells me if I can get this right, this is the way to go. Now, 2013, I had 2 agents and an assistant, and I did 36 million. That was 2014. 2015, I know I did 48 million. I can't quite remember. I might have had 4 agents. And by then I hired a second admin. So by then the EA, the assistant I had who had been doing all of the transaction, just kind of jack of all trades, we kind of bifurcated the roles. So now I had someone doing transaction management and listing coordination, one person. Okay. And then she kind of went on to be more marketing, helping with recruiting at that point, and just kind of, we just bifurcated the roles. Last year we did 70 million and about the same amount of agents.
Okay.
Agents, and we added an ISA last year. Yeah. And
your main role just stayed on the listing side of things?
Well, yeah, it's a good question. These are all great questions. I've pretty much stayed on the listing role the whole time with one break. I took a break from May of last year to about, is this right? To about August of last year. I took a break. And then even now I don't do all of the listing duties, right? So I call myself the listing coordinator, but certainly there's other people on the team who do that too.
Yeah. I got to ask you a personal question if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So when you're getting beat up and when you're down and you're not the Vija that's supposed to be doing it, what picks you up?
Yeah.
Brings you back?
These are really good questions, Jeff. You're really good at this. So, many people who follow me on Facebook know this, so it's not a surprise to anybody. I ballooned up to well over 200 pounds. There's a lot of stress involved. And I think people who don't cop to that stress are just not telling the truth. this is really hard and really stressful, and it just is.
Yep.
And if it were easy, then we would all be doing it. So there you go. And I made a decision. I kind of came to a head a couple years ago, and I started realizing that, you know, I have really big goals for my life and for my team. My team's in there. And I'm not sure I have the energy and the stamina to weather this. There's a lot of storms. There's a lot of hours. There's a lot of energy that goes into it. So 2 August ago, so almost 2 years ago, I embarked on a journey. I lost 70 pounds. And then I now work out 6 days a week, and I work out hard. I work out 1 to 2 hours a day, 6 hours a week. I kid you not, that is like better than any drug I ever could have taken. I now look back and don't know how I weathered the stress without working out so much. Right. So that's one thing. I think the second thing is that those of us who have spouses,
yes,
I have 3 kids, and I have 3 young kids. They're all in school. I have buy-in. The kids know what I'm building. I've got one of my kids is interning this summer. My husband, everybody's bought in. Everybody understands what I'm building. Everybody knows, you know, the correlation between mommy goes to work so that we get this house. Mommy goes to work so that we can go to this vacation. And I think that's really important to bring our families in. So I would say I have an incredible support staff at home.
That's very important. It's probably the biggest why we all have sometimes, and sometimes it takes a while to find it. Thrilled to hear that part of the story. And we never spoke about this stuff. So I've seen some of it on Facebook, and I've watched it, followed you for a long time. However, it's good to hear it from the raw points of where it started. So I got a couple really good questions. I'll reel us back in, and really thanks for hearing that personal stuff. Yeah. So a couple good questions that I know, is your ISA in-house, or do you feel, is it outside? Is it a big impact on your business kind of a thing?
Yeah. ISA, that in and of itself is a topic. You know, I've had an ISA now for about 1.5 years. Okay. And I think they're great. I think they are a big impact to your business. That is a marathon, not a sprint. Yep. It is not something, you know, just like your salespeople or whatever. The key, I think, let me go back. I'm in Seattle, Washington. Yep. My average price in the area we sell in is almost $900,000. So, and then the average price in the city, Seattle right now is like $770. The median price in the whole county is between $500 and $600. So, you know, compared to some areas in the nation, we are a highly sophisticated and tough market, lower unit count than a lot of people. So when we did 70 million last year, that was 129 units, which is a lot in this market. It's certainly not a lot in other markets. Sure. So with that said, this is a nurture game here. So the ISAs are amazing and great. But you have to, it's a long-term investment. For my experience and in my opinion, we don't have the kind of market where, you know, an ISA comes and you get 15 listings that month. I do know there are markets though that are like that.
Sure. So yeah.
I think that's a better, if you're going to listen to what I'm saying about that, then your market should be similar. Otherwise, I think it's a great question to ask people that are in similar markets to you. If you have a $200,000 price point and sell 500 homes a year, you know, Haro Sishan in Greenville would be someone to ask, right? So I think that's a really market specific question.
So just to clarify then, your first ISA, were they an external company, or did you sit them in your office?
No, they're employees. I have, right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 W-2 employees. You know, I'm full payroll and yeah.
Okay. That's just, because there's so many, there's a lot of people that start ISA, they start outside, maybe it's better cost benefit or time to manage versus bringing them in-house and training them. Because if you bring them in-house, you're training them, right?
Yeah. I've outsourced some of that. I mean, there's a lot of coaching organizations, thank goodness now. So again, it's time or money, but I have to pay for it. It's a commitment. I think having an ISA, you can't just, it's a commitment, and it's taken me a while to kind of figure out the calibration on ISAs. I don't know that I'm the expert on ISAs. It's been great for us.
Good. I mean, they become such a popular conversation, and
they have.
Yeah, many are trying to dabble there. You got to make that commitment. It's
a big commitment. It's like farming. I think this is a long-term commitment, and you have to be really engaged in it.
Yeah. All right, so I have a personal question as far as the team. So you have a director of operations. Mm-hmm. What's that role defined as? What's the role?
Yeah, I mean, so we have essentially 12 buckets for that role. I don't know if I'll be able to spout them all off, but it's institutional marketing, a 33-touch database marketing. God, I have to think. Lead management, numbers reporting. Oh, I don't have it in front of me. So she, recruiting, retention, sales management, tech admin, managing the transaction and listing coordinator, the VA, any special projects. I mean, she's really runs the team in a sense.
Is she pushing out the marketing pieces, the postcards, the mailers, the emails, the notifications?
All the above, from the little stuff to the big stuff. Yeah.
So that one person's doing all that too, not just managing it, physically doing it.
Well, no, she's managing it.
Okay.
No, she's managing.
Who's mailing your database?
So we do SmartZip for a farm area we have, and then we like CoreFact for our postcard mailing. We like CoreFact a lot. We use, I can't remember my listing coordinator. I can't remember who we use for, we might use Express Docs for brochures.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
All right.
I'm looking, I think it might be Express Docs. I don't know what they use.
Yeah.
But it's all third party, we don't do it in-house.
No, of course. Okay, good. Actually, just curious, what CRM are you using? It's always a big question.
Well, we use Boomtown and Brivity. So we use Brivity for transaction management and now for CRM, which is somewhat new. And then we use Boomtown for lead nurture, which is a little different from a CRM, Yeah,
it is.
It is.
It's always a big question. I mean, we all have our favorites and our preferences. So,
right.
Just good to ask. All right, so now you're at this level. You've kind of figured out, mastered, most of the angles. What do you look at next? What's the vision?
Yeah.
Your vision now?
Yeah. So, I have a really, I've spent the time, I've got a 10-year plan. I know what it is I want to build, with the caveat that I'm pretty clear about the fact that that'll change. That's okay that it changes. But I am definitely building I really think of myself as building a brokerage. I happen to be at Keller Williams. I'm building the Vija Group, and that's how I look at it. So right now I've got our hub is in Kirkland, Washington. I've got a group of agents now signed up in our downtown Seattle office because the commute times, we're like LA here. It's like really big commute times.
Yep.
We are going to expand next year, most likely in either Portland or the Bay Area, eventually Southern California. I like the Phoenix area potentially. I like Hawaii for us. So the vision of us is we do really well. If you can make it in Seattle, you can probably make it in the hardest markets in the US. We are a very, very challenging market. We're very demanding consumer here and very high end. I have a very high end price point and we like luxury. So the markets I'm looking to expand in really have to have a median price of over 400 for us to really be effective in. And so we're looking at markets. I like the I-5 corridor. It just makes sense for us to go up and down that. So I really, the plan is expansion, and the plan is that, I really think of this as growing a mini brokerage. I'd like to buy an office building in 2018 or 2019. So if I'm looking a few years out, I'm very laser focused on being able to do that and to move into our own building, which would be great. So those are kind of the focuses. So we're really recruiting the right agents. We failed a lot. We've lost a lot of agents. I'm really open about that. In fact, I'm talking at Inman about it. I'm really an open book. I don't really hide a lot. We've lost a lot of agents. We failed forward on a big stage, and I don't fear it. I'm okay with it. I love the lessons we learned. I've decided to be productive about the fails and to move forward in the right way. And now we know who works here. We know who doesn't work well here. We know where we're great. We know where we need to improve. And so we're in a really great place. It's funny, we've sold almost 50 million year to date, which was more than my year in 2015.
Awesome. And even with your trials and tribulations of losing people, that's, when some people lose one person, they're a mess.
Yeah.
You've had some churn, which unfortunately happens. I think the biggest fear from a team perspective, and I know it was definitely a fear of mine, was I'm going to create a monster and give them all my resources and all my tools and all my secrets, which there's no such thing as damn secrets, as you know, but I'm going to give it all to them. And then they're going to go out and take it from me and go do their own thing and be my competitor.
Mm-hmm. They do. That happens. And, that's on you and that's on me, because we have not showed them enough value, maybe enough growth or whatever it is to keep them here. Number one, or number two, we didn't hire the right people. That's on us too. Yep. And I mean, if they leave us, they've got DNA in it, but we probably have more DNA in it. And what I can share with you is that you just keep moving on. The grit and the determination it takes to get big in this business is hard to explain. It is so hard. That's the hardest part. Losing people is brutal. I'm not even going to pretend it's not.
No, I wouldn't expect you to. And I think, there's also, to clarify too, some of that mindset, there's also people who think they can go do what you're doing because it looks easy. You've made it look easy in many ways.
Totally. That's part of our fail, I think. Yeah.
They think I can do this now. I'm going to go make more money and do this my own. And then realize they jumped ship and go, holy crap. I might have a few leads now, but I got to spend how much on Boomtown and spend how much on this and how much is an assistant cost, and start, not saying they can't succeed. Many don't have the right plan before they make that jump. It just looks greener. And that damn well ain't greener most of the time.
Oh, it's funny. It's funny you should say that, because I remember when I was an individual agent, and I did have an assistant, back in the day, kind of before 2007, 2008, I was doing well enough that I had some experience having an assistant before. And I remember I was about 50 cents on the dollar when I started calculating all of my expenses and whatever. And I look at my agents now, and for the most part, we're on a 50-50 split, by the way.
Yep.
Someone was bound to ask if they haven't yet. Everyone.
Yeah, I got a question coming up for that. Yep.
Yeah. And so it's so funny. They have no expenses. They have no sort of, burden of a monthly nut that comes no matter what happens. And they're bringing home basically what I was bringing home as an individual agent. It's unbelievable. My top agent will crest over $200,000 this year. That's her net. Yeah. It's a great life.
No, it's not terrible. And that's where I think people don't realize, they look at the percentage, not the net, from a business perspective. 50% sounds like, I could go make 70, 80. Oh, sure. But then you're going to carry overhead with that. Your expenses and marketing. And no one knows that because they haven't written the check or given a credit card over yet.
Oh, this is a way better. Had this have existed when I started, this is where I would be. I would have been, I always laugh, I would be on a team.
So. I have some difference of opinion too sometimes when you ask me that question, but we'll save that for when you interview me.
Fair enough.
So here's a good question about buyer's agents. What percentage of business do you expect they bring in through their own prospecting and everything through leads that you give them from Boomtown, Zillow, Trulia?
Yeah, great question. So I actually have a video somewhere. It might be on YouTube. I have to find out where it is. The ideal mix is 50-50. So the ideal mix is that the team leads constitute 50% of their business, and then they're self-generating 50% of your business. I think that's the healthiest. The reality is it's usually 60 to 70% team leads to their leads, and that's okay too. The longer they stay over time, though, the more that balances out, because what happens is they get a deal their first month and it's a team lead, right?
Right.
And then what happens is they did a really great job and then they refer them. Well, now that's self-generated. I mean, even though the first one was a team lead, and then they're going to refer all these people. So the idea is, and my top agent who's been with me 3 years now, the idea is that every quarter when I kind of look at the balance, she's exploding from her self-generated business. Now I've got to dump leads over her way to get it to 50-50 again, and her business explodes, right? So that's part of the beautiful calibration of this whole thing, if you ask me, is actually paying attention to that number. So I love that whoever asked that question, I love you asked it. I think, you're probably a good leader for asking that question, because we have to always be kind of looking at that mix. Some teams really believe that they need to give their agents 99% of the business, and that's okay too. It's just a different model. Sure. Typically, the teams that I find that have a really high percentage of team generated business, they also have a lower split. So I think it can work either way. Honestly, my team lead generates. That's just, I want to teach them to fish. I want to teach them to be, you come on my team, you're going to be a really great agent. And part of that is just lead gen. I just think it's part of the whole thing. So
yeah. That's great. That's it was a great answer, and there is a lot of questions about how do I split that stuff up and what's expectations. So, I think a great question, and there's some thank yous in there for that too. By the way, I'm watching the stream. So here's a really great question. Let's go back. I'm going to reel back a little to show my age a little bit. So when I started in the late '80s, and the gray hairs to show it, right. Veteran agents way beyond me, I was a rookie, used to actually sell their book of business. And I remember some agents retiring, which I don't know where it exists. They would literally sell their database before the internet was born. You $5,000, $10,000, and I got your clients. So here's a great question I'm going to push up on the screen right now is 10 years from now, you got your vision painted. You hit those numbers, come close to them, exceed them, blow them away. What's your exit strategy?
Thanks, Chris. I love that question. My exit strategy is not to sell. I plan on growing a business that goes in perpetuity. With that said, I think that I'm just too transparent to not also say I'm definitely building a sellable entity. I think that's smart and wise. I'm well aware of the fact I might change my mind. So I am growing a big, massive empire that I want to be in perpetual motion. I won't run it, Chris. I mean, my exit strategy is that I'm growing a business. I will not be the CEO forever. I have some concepts of timing there, but I'm not quite sure.
So I have a question to tie to that, because I just went through this with one of my clients for similar reasons, maybe a little further down, longer down the path. So you're the Vija Group. 10 years from now, you're still the Vija Group. You decide you want to hand off tradition or hand off, and maybe Vija's not the leadership. Do you think you need to rebrand at some point?
No.
Okay, you're okay with still Vija?
John L. Scott Real Estate, where I was before. John L. Scott, passed away years ago. Long and Foster. Who are Long and who is Foster? Who's Corcoran? No one cares.
Right. Okay. It's a hot topic when people are getting to that stage. I worked with some people that had very personalized names and said, hey, I don't know and especially if they want a saleable entity. So it depends. Your strategy is not to exit that way.
Well, maybe it is, but I still don't think it matters. What matters is the consumer has shown they like a name. They like a person's name in the title. So I think what happened is there was a period of time where everybody was naming like Mountain to Sound Real Estate or whatever it is. They were naming it not a personal entity. And the market research showed it's like Get Riley, right? Yeah. Like Riley has to exist. There needs to be a name and a person. Nobody really cares if they're actually getting the Riley.
Right.
So right. I think that, there's so many, Charles Schwab in the financial industry, right? We're not getting Chuck. Like no one needs to get Chuck Schwab.
Chuck's not showing up.
Chuck's not showing up. So, Neiman Marcus, is that one name? Is it two? I don't know, but I don't expect to see them there.
Right.
So. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect my exit strategy.
That's why I'm glad I think for those who might, and again, depends on the name you have now. So your name obviously built your brand, wrapped around your name. There's some that have names that may not be something you want to continue to grow with from a brand perspective. Yeah. Like some people grow out of their name brand. I watched a few people that said, hey, we made it too niche, unfortunately, and now we're growing beyond that. Like if you made it something related to the Seattle market, you didn't know better 10 years ago.
Right. Totally.
Now you want to expand to Arizona and other places. You may have to figure that out and say, hey, it's got to make sense for the bigger scale.
Yeah. And you know what? Everything I say today, I reserve the right to change my mind. But no, I don't think I don't.
Have that too. Yeah. That's of course, that's your plan today. It can change tomorrow, right?
But it's not on my radar.
You know what? I love the fact, and you said it, and I'm just thrilled to see this business go that way, is we used to be so condensed in a box to our business. Like this is our brokerage and my franchise territory or whatever it is. And I love the fact that you can take a team and scale it to, I like California. I like Hawaii. I can have my team there if I want, because I know how to build it at this point. Mm-hmm. To me, releasing the boundaries and borders of our business is the biggest change I could see happening for those that have learned how to do it. Not everyone can do it. To me, that, you decide you want to spend half your time in Hawaii. God bless you. Your team's still there. You can operate anywhere. Who cares? your team's still
I don't even think I need to for my team to go there. I think it's about understanding lead gen levers and understanding how to scale things. And I mean, you know, we've got probably our biggest strength is our admin and our operations and our systems. We're just really good at that. And we're building a really great hub in Kirkland. And we're under capacity. There's no reason we can't grow and expand. And so then it's just a matter of learning the lead gen levers that are universal, FSBOs, expireds, internet, and then turning the spigots on and off and figuring out, you know, locally in every market what works and what doesn't.
All right, cool. Well, listen, I want one last piece of information from you, one last hot question, just for time purposes. We had some great interaction here, and I'm thrilled to see some of the people that joined us today. What's one piece of advice you're going to give somebody that's got to start? I think we can talk about all the ones that are in the mix of it, but someone that's got to start now, what's the one piece of advice you can give them?
Yeah, you know, you need to commit to no one gets to not fail. So what you need to decide right now up front proactively is how you're going to handle the failure. And you need to expect that you're going to have failure. You're going to have people leave you because you suck. You're going to have people leave you because they suck. You're going to have systems fail. You're going to have things that you've tried fail. And so you need to commit to kind of that grit that it takes to do this up front. And you need to just have the determination to keep going through the failure. That's my advice. That's
great. I love it. Love everything you're doing. I'm looking forward to seeing you in San Francisco in a couple weeks. Yeah. Oh, actually, it's coming up pretty quick. Anyway, I'll buy you a drink. We'll have some fun time. Thank you so much for spending time with us on our show today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Tremendous value, and anything we can do to help you you let us know.
I will. Thanks very much. Bye.
Big thank you, guys. This is another episode of Office Hours with Jeff from SparkTank Media. We're signing off. Watch this over and over again. You'll probably hear different nuggets come out of this. See you soon. Ciao.
Thank you.